Boy, you can hear a pin drop in here. Let's get started here. Would you please stand and join me for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public notice, Madam Secretary?
Adequate public notice has been given pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice have been posted at the board's office and website and emailed to the Department of State and to newspapers of board circulation within the state.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Holden.
Here.
Commissioner Cristo DeLu.
Here.
Commissioner Gould-Sadovi.
Here.
Commissioner Abdul.
Here.
President Frederico.
Present. Next regularly scheduled meeting?
The next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, September 14, 2023 at 10 a.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting in person at the board hearing room at 44 South Clinton Avenue in Trenton and live streamed via YouTube.
Thank you. We will have an executive session today, but before we go into that executive session, I just wanted to introduce Barbie.
There's Ken, is he here?
I don't think I have the hair for Ken, do I? In executive session, the board will be addressing under audits, item 1C, request for authorization for release of a bid solicitation. Under energy, item 2A, request for quotation regarding implementation of Executive Order 317. Under clean energy, in the matter of an agreement between the BPU and the Department of Environmental Protection. 8B, under clean energy, whole pilot program. And 8C, matter of customer relationship management system for benchmarking. And under miscellaneous, request for a quotation, which will all be discussed in executive session. And if the Attorney General's office would tell us why we're doing this.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. For the record, Brandon Simmons, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the Attorney General's office. Items 1C, 2A, 8A, 8B, 8C, and 9A all fall into the contract negotiation exception to the Open Public Meetings Act, which can be found at New Jersey Statute 10:4-12B7.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We should be back here. Give us 30 minutes. Hopefully it'll be shorter than that. Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay, we're back in regular session. And again, I want to welcome everyone who's here in person and also those who are joining us via live stream. I have a few opening remarks I'd like to make prior to getting started. First, item 7A has been deferred to a later date and will not be voted on today. Second, last week New Jersey suffered the tremendous loss of a true, in every sense of the word, public servant with the passing of Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. I've had the privilege of knowing Sheila for about 30 years. We were both born in Newark. We both grew up in Essex County politics, which is not an easy place to grow up in politics, but we made it. And coincidentally, we wind up in the same administration here in Trenton. And she was a true lady, one who dedicated herself to public service, not only as Lieutenant Governor, but as a commissioner on the Essex County Board of Commissioners, as a school board member, and the first African-American woman to be Speaker of the Assembly. She was, to say the least, a trailblazer. If we could have a moment of silence in her memory, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Moreover, today we are recognizing one of the longest-serving staff members at the board, one who has become a legend, I might add, here at the board. He's here by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. He leaves by 9 a.m. No, he doesn't. Spends the whole day working. If you can see him behind his pile of work at his desk. And Dr. Lai, who has been in our economist office, celebrated his 42nd work anniversary. I don't know what the board would be without you, Dr. Lai. So we celebrate with you, and if it's possible, if you know any secret, we'd like another 42 years out of it. Over the next week or so, our summer interns will be headed back to college. It's hard to believe that we're halfway through August already. And I wish January and February would go this quickly. But somehow they seem to drag on a little bit longer. I want to wish them all the best of luck as they return to their college campuses. And I want to thank them for their major contribution to us during their time here at the Board of Public Utilities. And I encourage them, once your school years are over, assuming you graduate, you think about, I only said that because I almost didn't, but you think about going into public service. There is no greater honor than to serve your fellow citizens. No greater honor. Because I hope that most of us come in here every day and leave here every day maybe making one person's life a little bit easier, a little bit better. That's what public service is about. I've had the opportunity, and some of my colleagues have, of working in the private sector. I only worked in the private sector 5 years out of my total working career. And I never got the satisfaction in private employment as I've gotten in public employment. It is one of the most gratifying experiences I think a human being can have as they go through life. You may not make $1 million, but the satisfaction that you get from doing what you do is certainly worth $1 million. So I ask you to think about that as you continue your education and when you ultimately graduate. The Board of Public Utilities will always be here. And if you've had a worthwhile experience, think about us. Think about joining us. Because the group of interns we've had have been marvelous. Some pass my office and don't even say hello, but that's okay. Right, Emma? And
They're scared.
that's all right. I've been dissed before. But in all seriousness, think about us. And thank you again for the contributions you've made during your tenure here. Since we won't be here until September, I want to wish you all a wonderful, I can't even say it.
Don't say it.
That day that comes in September, in the beginning, and that goes back to my old teaching days, because Labor Day was the most miserable holiday of the year. Only because it's the unofficial end of summer. And summer happens to be my favorite season. And I like the fall. I don't like what comes after it, though. So I wish you all a wonderful rest of the summer and a good Labor Day holiday. And be safe. Do any of my colleagues have any opening remarks?
I'm good for one.
Okay, Barbie.
We, this week and last week, we had a really great opportunity, thanks to Commissioner Procedural setting up a visit to the Passaic Valley sewage treatment plant, which doesn't sound like excitement for you, but I've always wanted to go there. It's the fourth largest wastewater treatment plant in the country. And the opportunities that we saw there, I mean, it was like listening to the triennium presentation we had at the last meeting, what we can do working with them and hopefully DOE. It's very exciting. And then the last 2 days are spent down at EPRI, which is the Electric Power Research Institute. And the capabilities, the testing capabilities, the information that's available, the teams of effort that are available that we never really realized we could tap into, they're very excited to work with us. And we made sure they will make a visit here. And I know you're on the board.
I am,
So,
yep.
It was a great experience.
Good. I'm glad you guys had that experience. Madam Secretary, the consent agenda.
On consent agenda items 1A, 1B, 2A, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 4A, and 9A.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Cristo DeLu,
Yes.
Commissioner Gusadovy,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdu,
Yes.
President Federlisi.
Yes. Thank you. All right, that brings us to our regular agenda. And we're going to start, Paul, with you on audits.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Commissioners. Before you
morning.
today is a matter concerning the modification to administrative costs submitted by DCA for state fiscal year 2021 for the Universal Service Fund Program. On June 22nd, 2022, the Board authorized a reimbursement of $6,579,188 to Treasury for fiscal year 21 DCA USF administrative expenses as Treasury advanced the money to DCA to cover the fiscal year 21 DCA USF administrative expenses. Subsequent to the June 29, 2022 order, staff was notified that a number of encumbrances were inadvertently omitted and/or canceled during the development and analysis of the initial fiscal year 21 actual administrative expense total that the Board approved in the June 29, 2022 order. Based on documentation from the state audited accounting system received from DCA and Treasury, Treasury represented that $7,110,686 had been funded to DCA. Accordingly, Treasury asserted that a reimbursement of $531,498 to Treasury was required in addition to the initial fiscal year 21 actual administrative expense total of $6,579,188 approved by the June 22 order. Staff has reviewed DCA's and Treasury's account of the basis of the additional administrative expenses and concludes that it is reasonable and necessary to reimburse Treasury for its payment of fiscal 21 USF administrative expenses that Treasury determined were appropriate. Staff therefore recommends that the Board authorize reimbursement of $531,498 to Treasury for the adjustments to DCA's fiscal year 21 USF administrative costs.
So moved.
Second?
Questions or comments for Paul? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gultadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federico?
Yes. And Paul, you also have 1B.
Yes. 1B is this matter relates to the administrative costs submitted by DCA for state fiscal year 2022 for the Universal Service Fund Program. On August 18, 2021, the Board approved a budget authorization of $8,005,013 for USF administrative costs for fiscal year 2022. On June 23, 2023, DCA submitted a detailed USF administrative report for fiscal year 22, which listed actual expenditures of $6,957,039. Staff has reviewed DCA's fiscal year 22 expenses and found that the costs listed therein appear appropriate and necessary at this time for the administration of the USF program. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board find that DCA has adequately justified its fiscal year 2022 USF administrative expenditures and authorize a reimbursement to Department of Treasury in the amount of $6,957,039.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Paul? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gultadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federico?
Yes. Paul, thank you very much. Alice, you're up. And we're looking at 1C.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This matter involves staff's request for the Board to authorize the release of a bid solicitation by Treasury on the behalf of the Board. Staff recommends that the Board authorize staff to take action consistent with the discussion in the executive session today.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Alice? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gultadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul? President Federico?
Alice, yes, you did great. Tracy, or Stacy, rather.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Stacy.
Executive Order 317 mandates that within 18 months, the Board develop recommendations regarding how the natural gas industry can meet the governor's goal of 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions below 2006 levels by 2030. As required by Executive Order 317, on March 6th, the board initiated a proceeding and directed staff to engage with stakeholders to investigate and recommend how the natural gas industry can best meet these goals. Staff recommends that the board authorize staff to issue a request for quotation on behalf of the board to hire a consultant to provide support in the proceeding.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? I might add that this item was also discussed in executive session. Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLuca?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Frederick.
Yes. Thank you, Stace. Michael?
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good morning, Michael.
On June 26, 2023, the electric distribution companies filed a joint petition requesting recovery of FERC-approved changes in firm transmission service related charges effective September 1st, 2023. As payment for the modified transmission charges began in June 2023, the EDCs requested a waiver of the 30-day filing requirement. The EDCs noted that any differences between payments to PJM and charges to customers will flow through the BGS reconciliation charges. Staff recommends that the board approve the changes to the BGS-RSCP and CIEP transmission rates as requested by each EDC effective September 1st, 2023. Staff further recommends that the board waive the 30-day filing requirement as requested by the EDCs. Finally, staff recommends that the board direct the EDCs to file revised tariffs by September 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Mike? Roll call, Madam Secretary?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLuca?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Frederick.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Ryan, I think you're up.
Good morning, Mr. President and
Good
Commissioners.
morning, Ryan. I understand somebody gave you vacation?
No, yes, I just got back last night.
Oh, I didn't think we gave vacations to people.
It was a mistake.
It was a mistake?
Won't happen again.
I asked really nicely.
Oh, you did? Okay, maybe that's why then you...
So this is an item regarding PJM tariff revisions filed at FERC. On May 30th, 2023, PJM Interconnection LLC proposed amendments to its open access transmission tariff to refine the triggers used to determine performance assessment intervals for capacity resources. PJM proposed to revise the pre-emergency and emergency actions and grid conditions which would trigger a performance assessment interval for capacity market commitments for the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 delivery years. Based on the proposal filed with FERC, there is a disagreement among PJM and certain stakeholders within the FERC docket as to what level of reserves PJM must tap into for the performance assessment interval to be triggered. On July 20th, 2023, board staff filed an answer in the proceeding to the debate among PJM and its stakeholders to support PJM's definition of a performance assessment interval trigger, supportive of triggering the performance assessment interval when there is a shortage of even the extended primary reserves to ensure that PJM takes appropriate measures to maintain reliability and balance the grid as it approaches emergency events. Staff recommends that the board ratify the comments filed by staff on July 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Ryan? Roll call, Madam Secretary?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal DeLuca?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Frederick.
Yes. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
I hope you had a good time.
I did.
Good. Lawanda? You have a number of items to
Yes,
present
I
to us,
do.
starting with 3A.
Yes, I do. Good morning, Mr. President and
Good
Commissioners.
morning.
This item involves a motion filed by the Borough of Madison seeking reconsideration of the board's order issued in this matter on June 29th, 2023. By way of background, CSCTKR LLC, a subsidiary of Altice USA, filed a petition in March 2023 seeking the board's assistance in resolving a dispute with the borough regarding access to its lines and equipment located on poles within the borough's rights-of-way. Specifically, in November 2021, Altice alleged that the borough began denying Altice access to its equipment and restricting Altice from construction and maintenance on its cable plant unless they agreed to provide additional fees to the borough through a pole attachment agreement, in contravention of Altice's cable TV franchise granted by the board. Following the review of the voluminous record developed to date in the proceeding through responsive filings from both parties, on June 29th, 2023, the board issued an order clarifying that the board has subject matter jurisdiction over the matter as the state's cable franchising authority pursuant to the Cable Television Act, to enforce the cable TV franchise based upon the municipal consent granted by the borough for access to the rights-of-way, including poles, and to adjudicate pole attachment disputes under federal law. The board's order directed the borough to allow Altice immediate access to its plant that has existed in the borough since the initial franchise was granted in 1975 for the construction and maintenance and deployment of its fiber-to-the-home system. The board further directed the remaining contested issue regarding the payment of pole attachment fees be transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law for hearing as a contested case. On July 5th, 2023, the borough filed the present motion for reconsideration and to stay the June 29, 2023 order. In its motion, the borough argued that the board erred in finding that it has jurisdiction over this matter because the Borough of Madison Electric Utility, which owns the poles, is not subject to the regulation or jurisdiction of the board. Similarly, the borough argued that the board erred in finding that the prior municipal consent ordinances and the system-wide franchise give Altice the authority to utilize the borough's utility poles, contending that the borough never gave Altice approval to attach its equipment to its utility poles as required under the joint use agreement. In response to the borough's motion, Altice argued that the motion was defective as it failed to specifically outline the errors of law or fact that the motion is based upon in separately numbered paragraphs as required under NJAC 14:17-9.6 and should be denied. Altice further argued that the motion should be denied because none of the borough's arguments change any of the undisputed material facts or invalidate any legal conclusions found by the board in its June 2023 order. Altice asserted that the borough ignored the borough's findings that the company's equipment has been attached to the borough's poles for decades without any objection from the borough until November 2021. Altice argued that because the borough's motion did not provide any new or erroneous information, it has failed to meet the legal standard for granting a motion for reconsideration and should therefore be denied. In its July 24th, 2023 reply, the borough reiterated its arguments from all of its previous filings. Staff has reviewed the motion and responsive filings and concludes the following. 1, the borough's motion should be deemed deficient for failure to state in separately numbered paragraphs the alleged errors of law or fact relied upon. 2, the borough has not identified any error of law or fact that warrants reconsideration of any component of the board's June 2023 order. 3, with respect to the board's jurisdiction over the dispute at hand, the board did not err in finding that it has subject matter jurisdiction over this matter, nor did it err in finding that the undisputed facts indicate Altice is authorized to utilize the borough's utility poles. Furthermore, the borough did not set forth any facts or arguments which warrant reconsideration of the board's findings with respect to Altice's right to access its equipment. Number 4, good cause does not exist to warrant a stay of the board's June 2023 order, and upon reaffirming the board's jurisdiction and the continuing validity and applicability of the system-wide franchise agreement, there is no basis to disturb or prevent Altice's access to its plant or the poles serving its customers in Madison. Accordingly, board staff recommends the borough's motion seeking reconsideration and stay of the board's June 2023 order be denied in its entirety.
So moved.
Second.
LaWanda, initially, it's my understanding that the governing body in Madison did approve the use of their polls for Altice to utilize. Am I correct?
Yes, Commissioner, the borough is required to issue a municipal consent which grants Altice the ability to use the borough's rights-of-way. And so they did, through the governing body approving the municipal consents over the last couple of decades from 1975 on, did grant Altice the authority to use the rights-of-way, which includes the polls.
And the equipment on these polls are the property of Altice, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
Yes.
President Frederick.
Yes. Next item.
Item 3B, on March 16th, 2022, Comcast Northwest New Jersey LLC filed an application with the town of Phillipsburg for initial municipal consent to provide service to the town. Through the petition, Comcast seeks to expand its adjoining cable TV system into the town to provide cable service as an overbuild to the current incumbent operator serving the town, who is Service Electric Cable TV of Hunterdon, thereby establishing Comcast as a second cable operator in the town. Approval will provide an alternative operator to serve the residents of the town, along with competitive choice that is sought by many residents throughout the state. Pursuant to the board's rules, the municipality and the company are required to provide the Office of Cable TV and Telecommunications with copies of all correspondence regarding the application, and the municipality is required to submit a copy of the draft ordinance to the office for its review and comment prior to its approval. On August 23rd, 2022, Comcast filed its application with the board for an initial certificate of approval for the town without the prior requirements being fulfilled. Upon review of the application, staff determined that there were deficiencies within the ordinance requiring amendment before the application could be processed. On March 9th, 2023, the town adopted an ordinance amending the municipal consent ordinance to address said deficiencies. And on March 15th, 2023, Comcast formally accepted the terms and conditions of the amended ordinance. Staff subsequently discovered additional deficiencies in the application and the supporting maps requiring amendments from the company. Staff worked with the company to address these additional deficiencies and establish procedures going forward to avoid future delays in review. Having completed its review of the application and amended documentation, along with the ordinance and amendment, staff now recommends approval of the proposed certificate of approval for a 10-year term, which will include reporting requirements detailing the status of construction of the system to be submitted to staff.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like the record to reflect the fact that the application had to be returned because of insufficient information and/or irregularities. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
Yes.
President Frederick.
Yes. And we're still with Comcast here, aren't we?
Yes. Item 3C, on March 16th, 2022, Comcast Northwest New Jersey LLC filed an application with the Borough of Alpha for initial municipal consent to provide service. Similar to the last item, approval of the petition would allow Comcast to expand its system into the borough to provide cable service as an overbuild to the incumbent operator, Service Electric Cable TV, and will establish a second cable operator in the borough. Following staff review of the draft ordinance, on February 14, 2023, the borough adopted an ordinance granting municipal consent to Comcast. On February 21, 2023, Comcast formally accepted the terms and conditions, and on March 17, 2023, Comcast filed its application with the board for a certificate of approval. Staff subsequently discovered additional deficiencies in the application and supporting maps which required amendments. Having worked with the company to address these deficiencies, staff has completed its review of the application and amended documentation. And along with the ordinance, staff recommends approval of the proposed certificate of approval for a 10-year term, which will include monitoring of the reporting requirements for the status of the construction.
So moved.
Second.
I'll make the same comment I did before because the record should reflect that staff had to return the application due to insufficient information and/or some irregularities. Is that correct?
Correct?
Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Cristo DeLue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gulcedovi,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
Yes.
President Federico.
Yes. And another Comcast item.
Yes, last but not least, 3D. On or about March 9th, 2022, Comcast Northwest New Jersey filed an application with the Township of Lopatcon for initial municipal consent to provide service. Similar to the last two items, approval of the petition would allow Comcast to expand its cable TV system into the township to provide cable service as an overbill to the incumbent cable operator and will establish Comcast as a second cable operator in the township. On July 28, 2022, Comcast submitted a draft ordinance to staff for review. Staff's review uncovered several areas of correction recommended for the parties to address. On December 7, 2022, the township adopted an ordinance granting initial municipal consent to Comcast. On February 20, 2023, Comcast formally accepted the terms and conditions of the ordinance. On March 1, 2023, Comcast filed its application with the board for an initial certificate of approval for the township. During the course of staff's review, it was discovered that the adopted ordinance did not contain the recommended amendments in staff's preliminary ordinance review. As an alternative to requiring the township to amend the ordinance, staff determined that the deficiencies could be clarified through the board's order approving the franchise, conditioned upon Comcast confirmation. On May 11, 2023, Comcast confirmed that it would comply with the terms of staff's recommended amendments to the ordinance. Having completed its review of the application and amended documentation, along with the ordinance and Comcast confirmation, staff now recommends approval of the proposed certificate of approval for a 10-year term, which will include reporting requirements detailing the status of the construction of the system.
So moved.
Second.
I'll just repeat the same comments I made before. If they had, or maybe a variation of those comments, if they had submitted an application that was perfect, it would have been done sooner. Is that correct?
Correct?
How long has Comcast been a provider in the state of New Jersey?
Since the 70s, I believe.
Since the 70s. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Cristo DeLue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gulcedovi,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
Yes.
President Federico.
Yes. Lawanda, thank you.
Thank you.
There are no items under telecommunications. Michael, you're back up.
I'm back up. This time on the water matter.
This is a water matter.
On March 15, 2022, Middlesex Water Company filed a petition seeking to increase its purchased water adjustment clause to account for increases in the cost of purchased water resulting from the implementation of the DEP's regulations regarding PFAS. The new regulations caused the company to shut down its Park Avenue well field because it was out of compliance with the new regulations and commenced construction of a new PFAS treatment plant for the well field. The board transferred the petition to the Office of Administrative Law for hearings, where it was assigned to ALJ Jacob Gertzman. ALJ Gertzman granted intervenor status to the Old Bridge Municipal Utilities Authority and to the Township of Marlborough. By order dated September 28, 2022, the board granted a motion filed by Middlesex for emergency relief to implement its proposed PWAC rates on an interim basis pending final resolution of this matter. Following subsequent settlement discussions, Middlesex, Rate Counsel, and board staff executed a stipulation agreeing that the interim rates should be made permanent. The interveners notified the ALJ that they would not sign the stipulation, rendering the stipulation non-unanimous. Briefs were filed by the parties, and ALJ Gertzmers argue that to facilitate a just and reasonable rate increase, Middlesex's past actions regarding the well field must be fully considered by the board to allow all parties an opportunity to argue for and against the increase. The interveners further argue that prior to completing its last base rate case, Middlesex knew that it would have to shut down the well field and that excluding anticipated large-scale purchases of water from New Jersey American in its rate case resulted in a flawed and misleading cost of service model. Finally, the interveners argue that Middlesex must have a full and fair hearing on the issue in this matter regarding an account of when the closure was necessary, how the closure proceeded, and any efforts undertaken to mitigate ratepayer impact prior to the closure. Middlesex argued that the right to recover cost through a PWAC is well-settled law pursuant to board regulations, and argued that the stipulation complies with regulations requiring that settlements be voluntary, consistent with the law, and fully dispositive of all issues in controversy. Rate Counsel argued that by stipulation, the signatory parties agreed to the PWAC timely filed by Middlesex. Rate Counsel further argued that the PWAC serves as a pass-through charge not intended to be fully litigated, and PWAC settlements garner no expectations of litigation akin to a base rate case. Finally, Rate Counsel argued that if the intervener's request is granted, Middlesex's customers outside the intervener's areas will pay higher, unjust, and unreasonable rates. Staff argued that a PWAC allows the utility to include in rates the cost of fluctuation in purchased water without the necessity of a full base rate case, which was accomplished by the stipulation. Finally, staff argued that the interveners received the opportunity to fully participate in the litigation phase of this proceeding in conformance with the law and case precedent regarding non-unanimous stipulations. ALJ Gertzman issued an initial decision in this matter, recommending that the board approve the stipulation and reasoning that the interveners received an opportunity to be heard in conformance with the law and case precedent regarding non-unanimous stipulations. As such, the ALJ approved the stipulation, finding it to be just and reasonable, voluntarily agreed to by the signatory parties, and fully dispositive of the issues in controversy and in conformance with the law. Staff recommends that the board approve the stipulation. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mike Hunter and Andrew Chuzo for all their hard work on both the case and on the order.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments?
When do we ever have water litigated matters? This is exciting.
It's almost as exciting as going to a wastewater treatment plant.
It's gold now, wastewater.
Questions, comments for Mike? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulcedovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federico?
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Frank, you're up on an item concerning Central Power and Light.
Morning, President, Commissioners.
Morning, Frank.
On April 21, 2023, JCP&L filed a letter petition requesting approval to use an out-of-state meter testing facility in accordance with NJAC 14:3-4.4E. As part of its Advanced Metering Infrastructure Program, JCP&L contracted with the Eastern Specialty Company, TESCO, to perform mass retirement testing of the New Jersey meters at a facility located in Bristol, Pennsylvania. After a thorough review of the petition and comments received by the Division of Rate Counsel, staff recommends that the board approve the use of the out-of-state testing facility subject to certain conditions, including the condition that the Tesco facility only be used for testing New Jersey customer meters until such time that the number of JCP&L AMI program retired meters that require testing no longer exceeds JCP&L's testing capacity in its New Jersey's facility. This is a temporary location that is needed for the timely testing of a large amount of retired meters over a relatively short period of time.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Frank? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Christo DeLue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdu,
Yes.
President Federline.
Yes. Thank you, Frank. And Sean, I
Yes, sir.
see that you're going to do B, C, and D for reliability and security.
Yes, Mr. President. I have to show my age a little bit here.
We don't,
I just started wearing them, so it's a little new.
Sean,
Sir?
just a word of caution, we don't talk about age here.
Oh, sorry about that. Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. Items 6B, 6C, 6D are staff recommendations for the issuance of 3 final orders of penalty assessments for alleged violations of the Underground Facility Protection Act by Apple coring and sawing an excavator as defined by the Act. Item 6B concerns a PSE&G natural gas damage that occurred on October 22nd, 2020 in Jersey City, New Jersey. After investigating this matter, staff found that Apple coring and sawing was in violation of not having a valid mark-out ticket as required by the one-call rules. Staff issued a notice of probable violation to Apple coring and sawing via certified mail and regular mail, advising the company to respond within 21 days to an offer of a settlement of $3,000. To date, staff has no record of response to the notice of probable violation. On May 9th, 2023, Apple coring was also served with notice of settlement conference for an informal meeting to discuss a separate alleged violation and the October 22nd, 2020 violation. Apple coring failed to respond and appear for a scheduled settlement conference to discuss the alleged violations. Apple coring is therefore in default, and the board is not bound by the offer of settlement. In determining the appropriate penalty amount to be assessed, the board is required to consider the penalty assessment factors, including but not limited to nature, circumstances, and gravity of the violation, history of prior offenses, and the degree of the violator's culpability. In this matter, Apple coring damaged a high-consequence natural gas facility with mechanized equipment on major roadway in Jersey City and created an unnecessary risk by not having a valid markout. Staff's recommendation that the board approve a final penalty assessment of $8,000 through the issuance of the final order of penalty assessment.
So moved.
Second.
We can't emphasize enough the idea that not getting markouts are extremely dangerous. We saw an explosion in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they've determined the exact cause of that, but the entire house was destroyed and other homes around it were affected. This is a matter of life and death. And it's my understanding, Sean, that we still haven't heard from,
No, sir.
well, with a name like Apple coring and sawing, it's a little strange, but at any rate, it's important, obviously, that we stay on top of this. And do we have, General Counsel, the ability to increase the violation amount if we hear nothing from the company?
Yes, the board can take into consideration the lack of cooperation with the company as well as the number of violations. So as violations increase, so too can the fines. And our attorney generals can take additional actions in court with regard to enforcement if that becomes necessary.
Okay, good. So we have tools in the toolbox to continue to address this. Good job, guys. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Madam Secretary?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustadovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. And unfortunately, C involves the same company.
Yes, sir. Item 6C concerns a PSE&G electric facility damage that occurred on May 3rd, 2021 in Cranford, New Jersey. After investigating this matter, staff found that Apple Coring and Sewing did not have a valid markout ticket as required by the one-call rules. Staff issued a notice of probable violation to Apple Coring and Sewing via certified mail and regular mail, advising the company to respond within 21 days to an offer of settlement of $3,000. To date, staff has no record of response to the notice of probable violation. On May 9th, 2023, Apple Coring was also served with a notice of settlement conference for an informal meeting to discuss a separate alleged violation and the May 3rd, 2021 violation. Apple Coring failed to respond and appear for a scheduled settlement conference to discuss the alleged violations. Apple Coring is therefore in default, and the board is not bound by the offer. In determining the appropriate penalty amount to be assessed, the board is required to consider a number of penalty assessment factors that including, but not limited to, the nature, circumstances, and gravity of violation, history of prior offenses, and the degrees of the violator's culpability. In this matter, Apple Coring damaged an electric facility, created an unnecessary risk by not having a valid markout, excavated outside the proposed work area, and has a history of prior offenses. Staff recommends that the board approve the maximum penalty of $2,500 for not having a valid markout ticket and $2,500 for outside the scope of work, proposed work, for a total of $5,000 through the issuance of a final order of penalty assessment.
So moved.
Second.
They're slow learners, apparently.
Very slow, sir.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustadovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. And unfortunately, we have a third item related to the same company.
Yes, sir. Item 6D. Item 6D concerns a PSE&G natural gas damage that occurred on November 17th, 2021 in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. After investigating this matter, staff found that Apple Coring and Sewing did not have a valid markout ticket as required by the one-call rules. Staff issued a notice of probable violation to Apple Coring and Sewing via certified mail and regular mail, advising the company to respond within 21 days to an offer of settlement of $3,000. To date, staff has no record of response to the notice of probable violation. On May 9th, 2023, Apple Coring was also served with a notice of settlement conference for an informal meeting to discuss a separate alleged violation and the November 17, 2021 violation. Apple Coring failed to respond and appear for a scheduled settlement conference to discuss the alleged violations. Apple Coring is therefore in default, and the board is not bound by the offer of settlement. In determining the appropriate penalty amount to be assessed, the board is required to consider the penalty assessment factors, including but not limited to the nature, circumstances, and gravity of the violation, history of prior offenses, and the degree of the violator's culpability. In this matter, Apple Coring damaged a high-consequence natural gas facility with mechanized equipment, created an unnecessary risk by not having a valid markout, and is a repeat offender. Staff recommends that board approve an escalating final penalty assessment of $10,000 through the issuance of a final order of penalty assessment.
So moved.
Second.
I would suggest, if we do not get any response from this company, Apple Coring, that we initiate further penalties and possibly bring some legal action, because this is ridiculous. I mean, 3 times they have ignored us,
Yes, sir.
and they have put the people's lives at risk because they've ignored us. So let's stay very close to this, and if we have to bring ultimately legal action against them, in addition to higher penalties, that's what we have to do.
Yes, Mr. President.
And let's take roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustadovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul? President Federlisa?
Yes. And Sean, For your first presentation before us, you did a hell of a job.
Thank you, sir.
As I indicated, item 7A has been deferred to a future meeting. That brings us to clean energy, item 8A, which was discussed in executive session. And David, you're up.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. This matter pertains to a memorandum of understanding between the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and the BPU regarding the use of regional greenhouse gas initiative funds. New Jersey's participation in RGGI auction for years 2020 through 2022 resulted in $372 million in funding. New Jersey's RGGI Strategic Funding Plan allocated 60% of the funding to the New Jersey Economic Development Authority and 20% of funding each to BPU and DEP. BPU's charge in the Strategic Funding Plan for 2020 through 2022 was to invest in clean transportation, particularly for low and medium income residents. Between 2020 and 2022, RGGI proceeds funded 194 projects in New Jersey, with funding amounts totaling $186.5 million. BPU funded 38 projects related to clean transportation for a total of $49.5 million. In February 2023, Governor Murphy announced that $70 million in unobligated RGGI funds would be reallocated to DEP for the purpose of using the funds to lower the costs of medium and heavy-duty electric vehicles. The proposed MOU would authorize DEP to expend $24 million in unallocated funds from BPU's allocation for the purpose of covering the costs of making the switch from a diesel vehicle to an electric vehicle, including the cost of an electric vehicle charger. Recipients of the funding will include local governments and companies located in environmental justice communities, selected competitively through DEP's Vehicle Electrification Grant Program, which was established through the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust. Staff recommends that the board approve the MOU and authorize President Fiordaliso to execute the MOU on BPU's behalf.
So moved.
Second?
Great job in overseeing some of our RGGI. This is a program, this is vital to New Jersey because we do get funds from RGGI to address certain environmental issues. And we generally share those funds with DEP and EDA, and they have helped in promoting a variety of different environmental issues. Also, you did a great job for your first time before us.
Thank you.
I had asked my colleagues to really give you a tough time, but none of them would do it. But good job. Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Fiordaliso?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nesda. This item was also discussed in executive session, and it's the Whole House Pilot Program.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
On April 7th, 2021, the board awarded the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, GHHI, a contract regarding the Whole House Pilot Program, which takes a whole house approach as described in the 2019 New Jersey Energy Master Plan. This involves working to address health and safety hazards that prevent weatherization and to implement energy efficiency measures in single and multifamily residences occupied by low-income residents. Trenton was selected as the location of the Whole House Pilot Program and was designed to serve as a model and basis for scaling up a statewide whole house program. Lessons learned will be used to inform such a statewide program, and a final report detailing and analyzing the results of the pilot program will be delivered for the board's consideration at the conclusion of the project. GHHI is currently coordinating with Comfort Partners in Trenton, including PSE&G and CMC Energy, as well as local partner organizations, including ISLES and Habitat for Humanity, to implement the Whole House Pilot Program. The proposed contract modification will extend the contract by a period of 13 months from September 2nd, 2023 until September 30th, 2024. Staff requests and recommends that the board approve the contract modification and extend the current Whole House Pilot Program contract length by 13 months, pending the receipt of all required Treasury approvals.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments for Kevin? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustedovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. Kevin, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Alexis? Good morning. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
On May 23rd, 2018, the Clean Energy Act was signed into law, mandating that no later than 5 years after the date of enactment, the board required the owner and operator of each commercial building over 25,000 square feet in the state to benchmark the energy and water use for the prior calendar year using the United States Environmental Protection Agency's Portfolio Manager tool. On September 7th, 2022, the board issued the benchmarking order, which authorized staff to implement a plan for a customer relationship management vendor to provide and manage a CRM system and a team to include a help desk, support outreach, manage communications, and process and review applications for exemptions from the benchmarking requirement with staff oversight, as well as make final determinations on exempt applications and appeals. On December 8th, 2022, the Procurement Bureau within the Division of Purchase and Property, DPP, of the New Jersey Department of the Treasury issued a bid solicitation on behalf of BPU for the CRM vendor. On February 15th, 2023, DPP's proposal review unit received proposals from 7 entities. On May 12th, 2023, the evaluation committee, which included staff, met to evaluate proposals that were eligible for consideration regarding the CRM vendor and will recommend an award. Staff seeks to procure the CRM system to assist the benchmarking program as part of a 3-year contract with the option to extend the term twice, each for a 1-year period. Staff recommends that the board approve the evaluation committee's selection of the CRM system, subject to final Treasury approval.
So moved.
Second?
And I might add that this item was also discussed in executive session. Any questions or comments for Alexis? Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gustedovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. And I understand you have the next item, item D.
Yes, correct. By order dated April 7th, 2021, order the board authorized South Jersey Gas Company to implement its current energy efficiency programs for the triennium 1 period commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2024. The order authorized South Jersey Gas to offer various programs, including an efficient products program through which South Jersey Gas provides incentives and on-bill repayment for efficient products that reduce energy usage. On-bill repayment is available for select products for customers to cover the remaining cost after applying the rebate discount of the efficient products. The April 2021 order also authorized South Jersey Gas to shift budgets out of either the residential or the commercial and industrial sectors. South Jersey Gas may shift its program budgets for programs within the same sector up to 25% with staff notification, above 25% up to 50% with staff approval, and over 50% with board approval. South Jersey Gas may also shift up to 5% of its sector budget between or among sectors with staff notification, above 5% up to 10% with staff approval, and over 10% with board approval. On May 16, 2023, South Jersey Gas filed a petition with the board requesting that the board allow South Jersey Gas to modify its energy efficiency programs in 2 ways, and indicated that it anticipates that the company will experience an approximate shortfall of $15 million in the $61.1 million efficient products budget. First, South Jersey Gas proposed to limit on-bill repayment on efficient products to gas measures only for dual fuel projects where South Jersey Gas's service territories overlap with that of an electric company. Second, South Jersey Gas requested that the board allow them to shift available budgets between sectors upon 5 days' notice to staff and the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel in order to quickly accommodate market demand.
So moved.
On-
Oh, sorry. I thought, never mind.
On June 23rd, 2023, Rate Counsel submitted a comment letter indicating that they do not oppose South Jersey Gas's request to limit on-bill repayment on efficient products to gas measures. However, Rate Counsel opposed South Jersey Gas' request to waive the restriction on budget sector shifting and the corresponding notification requirements. Staff agrees with Rate Counsel and recommends that the board approve South Jersey Gas' request to allow South Jersey Gas to modify the program to only offer on-bill repayment on gas measures. However, staff recommends that the board deny South Jersey Gas' request to lift budget sector shifting restrictions. If closer to February 2024, South Jersey Gas anticipates that the approved modification above will be insufficient to address the program's budget constraints, South Jersey Gas can file a budget shift at that time.
And now,
You're on,
moved.
Barbie.
Second.
sorry about that.
Questions, comments for Alexis? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldsadovy,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
Yes.
President Federlisa.
Yes. Good job, Alexis. Thank you. Diane, you're up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This item involves the adoption of proposed rules for a new subchapter in the New Jersey Administrative Code, Title 14, Chapter 8, Subchapter 12, which is intended to specify siting criteria for grid supply solar facilities and net metered non-residential solar facilities with a capacity greater than 5 megawatts. These siting criteria would apply to installations competing in the Competitive Solar Incentive, or CSI, program, as well as to those qualifying solar facilities that choose to forego an incentive. The rule proposal implements Sections 6 and 8 of the Solar Act of 2021, and the provisions were developed in close cooperation with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, and the State Agriculture Development Committee. The proposed rule was published in the New Jersey Register at 55 NJR 135 for a 60-day comment period on February 6, 2023, and a notice of correction was issued March 20th, 2023. The public comment period closed for the notice of proposal on April 7th, 2023, and for the notice of correction on May 19th, 2023. Following the receipt and review of stakeholder comments, staff recommends that the board adopt the proposed rule with 3 non-substantive changes and approve its publication in the New Jersey Register.
Barbie?
What the proposals were. So moved.
All right. Second.
Any questions or comments for Diane? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldsadovy,
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul,
I'm abstaining on this one.
and President Federlisa.
Yes. Diane, thank you.
Thank you.
Sawyer. 8F and 8G.
Yes. Mr. President and Commissioners, this agenda item involves the launch of the Community Solar Energy Program, or the CSEP. The CSEP is a conversion of the Community Solar Pilot Program, which the board established in 2019, into a permanent program. The goal of the CSEP is to approve at least 150 megawatts of community solar projects per year, with incentives provided through the administratively determined incentive program. Community solar enables utility customers to participate in a community solar energy project that is remotely located from their properties and receive a credit on their utility bill for their participation, and enables them to access clean energy for utility customers currently unable to place solar generation directly on their own properties. The BPU developed the pilot with a particular focus on ensuring that low to moderate income LMI customers can access community solar, and that community solar development is pursued without materially compromising the preservation of open space or protected lands in New Jersey. In 2 program years of the pilot program, the board approved 150 projects, totaling 243 megawatts of capacity. So far, 27 of these projects, with 49 megawatts of capacity, have already come online and are providing more than 6,300 New Jersey households and electricity customers with the benefits of this clean energy. Staff expects almost 100 more projects to begin operation in the next several months. When it made the 2021 awards, the board elected to forego a 3rd program year and directed staff to conduct stakeholder proceedings and recommend establishment of rules to convert the pilot into a permanent program. Board staff has on several occasions solicited stakeholder feedback on the pilot and potential changes to incorporate in the program, including through a straw proposal released on March 30th, 2023. This agenda item marks another milestone in the board's commitment to New Jersey's development of a sustainable, cost-effective solar electricity market that serves New Jersey residents who haven't previously been able to go solar. In the current energy year 2024, staff recommends that the board allocate capacity blocks in the ADI program for community solar totaling 225 megawatts, divided among the 4 electric distribution companies, approximately proportional to their retail sales. The ADI program incentive value for all community solar projects would be $90 per megawatt hour. Projects that were approved in the pilot program but did not reach commercial operation by their registration expiration could apply for the CSEP without counting against the capacity limits. Staff also recommends that registration in this CSEP component of the ADI program be open to community solar projects no greater than 5 megawatts DC in size, and which are located on rooftops, carports, and canopies over impervious surfaces, contaminated sites and landfills, or bodies of water that have little to no established floral and faunal resources. Staff recommends that projects may register in the CSEP on a first-come, first-served basis until each EDC megawatt block reaches full capacity, similar to other segments in the ADI program. However, in the event that a block reaches capacity within the first 10 business days of an initial registration period, applicant projects would be accepted into the program in the order of the highest guaranteed minimum bill credit discounts, which developers commit to offer to all subscribers. Projects wishing to register in the CSEP would be required to meet several maturity requirements, including, for facilities sized 1 megawatt or greater, written authorization from the EDC providing conditional approval to construct, a community engagement and subscriber acquisition plan, and copies of applications for all discretionary land use approvals and entitlements applicable to the project. Staff believes that engagement and outreach by project developers to both residents in the communities where projects are located and any potential subscribers are important aspects of community solar. Therefore, a community engagement and subscriber acquisition plan should include a letter of support from the municipal council or mayor of the municipality in which the project will be located, and other evidence that the developer is actively engaging with the community. Staff recommends that all projects be required to serve a minimum of 51% LMI subscribers as measured by capacity subscribed. LMI subscribers would have several avenues to show income eligibility in order to minimize the burden of verification on the subscriber. Allowed eligibility verification methods would include participation in several assistance programs, residence in certain areas, and self-attestation that their household income is less than 80% of the area median income. To promote participation by multifamily affordable housing buildings, staff recommends that the bill credit for these subscribers be calculated inclusive of an average demand charge for this type of customer. Staff recommends that subscribers to a new community solar project in the CSEP may be subscribed from anywhere within its EDC territory and that there be no limit to the number of subscribers to each project. Regarding generation credits that are not allocated to subscribers, staff recommends that projects may bank credits for up to 12 months from the start of project operation, and they may allocate them to subscribers for up to 24 months from the start of project operation. Staff recommends requiring the EDCs to implement consolidated billing for community solar by January 1st, 2025, which would allow subscribers to receive the community solar bill credit savings on a single bill that has the subscription fee included. All projects serving residential subscribers would be required to participate in consolidated billing for these customers. Additionally, staff recommends that all projects must provide customers with a minimum guaranteed bill credit discount of no less than 15%. Customers may also not be charged a termination fee for ending their subscription. Finally, staff recommends that the registration portal open to community solar projects on November 15th, 2023, with a 10 business day initial registration period. Mr. President and Commissioners, this new program will greatly expand a burgeoning market for solar in New Jersey. Adding hundreds of megawatts of new solar in coming years will bring all the benefits of clean energy and hundreds of new jobs to the state. Staff believes that the Community Solar Energy Program does this in a way that is both environmentally responsible and at a low cost to ratepayers. Staff recommends that the board approve the Community Solar Energy Program.
So moved.
Second?
This, Sawyer, is really a big day. And I want to congratulate you, as well as Veronique and Scott for an outstanding job in getting us to this point. As many of you know, we had a pilot program for 2 years. I remember when we started this, you know, there were so many questions, and we said, well, let's start a pilot program and see how it goes. And then the benefit of a pilot program is that you can tweak it as you go along. What works, what doesn't work. And it's so gratifying to see it come to fruition, because we are giving people who, up until now, had no way of participating in the energy transition that we're experiencing and will continue to experience for years to come. They now have the ability to be a part of the clean energy revolution that New Jersey is currently involved in. Our permanent solar program removes those key barriers, and there is no excuse if someone can't afford to put solar on their own roof, or if they live in a multi-dwelling, or if they live in an underserved community. All of us have to participate. All of us have to be a part of the clean energy movement if we are going to continue to mitigate the effects of climate change. We have seen water temperatures off the coast of Miami going above 101 degrees. 101 degrees. We have a problem. We're seeing glaciers just melting down. I mean, it's just crashing into the ocean. Sea level continues to rise because of that. So this is not just the responsibility of Governor Murphy's administration. This is the responsibility of all 9.3 million people who live here. And we have to continue to aggressively address the devastating effects of climate change. This summer, which I'm sure if you have a lawn or something, you're very happy. By this time, in normal summers, it'd be brown and yellow and every other color. It's as green as it is in the tropics. The downpours we get we've never gotten before. It just doesn't rain anymore, downpours. Climate is changing. And we all better be adults about the fact that we have to do something about it. And not hide our heads in the sand. Because it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. So the work that you guys are doing on a daily basis is moving us forward to mitigate the effects of climate change. And that's one of the reasons why I addressed the interns earlier today. We are doing work that's going to hopefully save future generations. It's not many times in one's career, and I've been working a long time, that you can actually say that I'm doing something that is going to affect future generations in a positive way. That's our responsibility. That's why we're in public service. And we have to talk to our neighbors and our friends. I don't care if they start with changing a light bulb to a more efficient light bulb. Anything each and every one of us can do helps to mitigate the effects of climate change. And nobody should be left behind. Nobody. Because we're all in this together. We're either going to succeed together, or I don't want to think about the alternative. Any other questions or comments?
If I
Yes.
could just, because Mr. President, as you said about climate change, something that we should never forget about, so many of us maybe take it for granted because that's why we're here and that's what we do, but a lot of people have kind of forgotten about it. They don't really associate the forest fires and the storms and 101-degree ocean waters with climate change. We can't let people forget that. I just had a visual, as you were saying about the waters off the coast of Florida. Imagine on a summer's day, you're down in Florida vacationing and you get out of the water to cool off. Right? Think about that. You're getting out of the ocean to cool off. That's how much energy is being stored now in the oceans, and that's how hot it's getting. And that's the energy source that's going to fuel, God forbid, the hurricane season that's coming up. So what we're doing is very important, critically important to the interns. Stay here. And I'd like to really mislead you a lot, if I could for just a minute. You absolutely could make $1 million here if you stay for 40 years like some of us. So I just want to really distort the comment that the president made earlier to encourage you to stay for 40 years. So thank you for all you do.
Commissioner, how do I make that $1 million?
Just want to stay longer.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And of course, this is a boom, again, to our solar industry, an industry that we created here in the state of New Jersey and have over 180,000 solar installations. It's pretty remarkable. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Deluna?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
I am recusing myself on account of my prior employment at NRG.
And President Federlisi?
Yes. Sawyer, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Veronique, thank you. Scott, thank you. The whole solar team, thank you.
And for item 8G, this agenda item involves the proposal of amendments to the New Jersey Administrative Code, primarily amendments to subchapter 9 of chapter 8, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, in Title 14. Subchapter 9 governs the Community Solar Energy Pilot Program, which will be converted to the Community Solar Energy Program, or CSEP. As explained already, the CSEP is designed to approve community solar facilities and set standards for their operation. It will also provide incentives within the SUSI program, Successor Solar Incentive Program, which serves as the permanent program for providing solar incentives to qualified solar electric generation facilities. The rule proposal would establish the permanent community solar energy program based on the framework of the pilot program and set new standards for participation. The provisions establishing the CSEP in the rule proposal today mirror those laid out in the board order that was approved just before this agenda item, in addition to provisions regarding municipal automatic enrollment projects. In addition, the rule proposal includes modifications to the Successor Solar Incentive Program to incorporate the registration process for community solar projects. Staff recommends the board approve the rule proposal for publication in the New Jersey Register.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
I'm recusing again for the same reason.
And President Federico?
Yes. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
That's right. When I was in college, we demonstrate for less than this. Jack, where's Jack? There's Jack. You're up. Item 8H.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Morning, Jack.
This matters regarding the Rockland Electric Company's electric vehicle program. So by order dated October 12th, 2022, the board approved a stipulation which authorized RICO to implement an electric vehicle program with an approximate budget of $7.6 million, which required that RICO file a residential managed charging program by December 31st of 2022. On December 20th, 2022, RICO filed a petition with the board seeking approval for a residential managed charging program. By order dated January 25th, 2023, the board designated then Commissioner Robert M. Gordon as the presiding commissioner for the residential managed charging program petition. However, on March 31st, 2023, then Commissioner Gordon formally retired from state service and left his position at the board. Therefore, staff recommends that the board redesignate a presiding commissioner for this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, and I'd like to, before we move it, I would like to ask Commissioner Gulsadovy to step in.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments for Jack? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovy?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federico?
Yes. Jack, I understand this is your first presentation before the board.
That's right.
Again, I asked my colleagues to really bust you, but nobody would do it. But Jack is one of our bright stars who made their first presentation before the board today, and I think there were 3 of you. And we appreciate your work.
Appreciate you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Witherell. Miscellaneous item 9A.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. President and Commissioners. I'd like to just start my remarks by thanking you for recognizing the years of service and contribution of Dr. Lai, his contributions both to the board and specifically to the Office of the Economist. So thank you for that. Item 9A, this matter was presented in executive session and concerns the release of a request for quotation to retain a consultant to assist staff with tasks related to administering the Zero Emission Certificate Program. An evaluation committee reviewed the submitted quotes. After review and after requesting and then receiving best and final offers, the evaluation committee selected the overall best quote to recommend to the board. Staff recommends that the board approve the evaluation committee's recommendation for a selected consultant and directs staff to execute a contract for services as described in the RFQ and scope of work.
So moved.
Second?
And again, this was discussed thoroughly in executive session. Questions, comments? Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. Item B.
Item 9B, another ZEC matter. Pursuant to the ZEC Act, the board is required to determine the ZEC price for each energy year that eligible nuclear plants have been selected by the board to receive ZECs. The ZEC price is the dollar per megawatt hour price that the selected nuclear units receive for their generation under the ZEC Act. The formula for determining the ZEC price is defined in statute as the total dollars collected by New Jersey electric distribution companies through the ZEC charge divided by the larger of two values, either the total number of megawatt hours generated by the nuclear plants or 40% of the total megawatt hours of electricity sold by the electric distribution companies. As calculated by staff, the resulting ZEC price for energy year 2023 is $9.88 per megawatt hour of generation at the nuclear plants. Staff therefore recommends that the board determine the ZEC price for energy year 2023 to be $9.88 per megawatt hour.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
Yes. I'm sorry. General Counsel, did you want to say something? You're motioning to me, and I'm sorry, I'm not picking it up.
Prior to closing the proceedings, there's a procedural issue that I would like to make the board aware of.
Oh, okay.
So following the last agenda.
Last agenda, okay,
Thank you
very good, thank you. And Ben, the final item.
Yes, item 9C. Every 3 years, the Zero Emission Certificate, or ZEC Act, requires the board to conduct a proceeding to certify which, if any, nuclear power plants are eligible to participate in the ZEC program and receive ZECs pursuant to the Act. On August 29th of 2018, the board initiated the ZEC program, and on April 18th of 2019, the board determined that 3 nuclear plants were eligible to participate in the ZEC program and would receive ZECs for the period April 18th, 2019 through May 31st of 2022. On August 12th of 2020, the board opened the application window for the second ZEC eligibility period. And on April 27th, 2021, the board found that 3 nuclear plants were eligible to receive ZECs for the period June 1st, 2022 through May 31st of 2025. Today, staff recommends that the board open the third eligibility period of the ZEC program, or ZEC 3, covering the period from June 1st of 2025 through May 31st of 2028. Board staff further recommends that A, the board approve the ZEC 3 application for publication on the board's website. B, the board set the ZEC 3 program fees and deadlines. And C, that the board appoint a presiding commissioner for the docket.
I'm sorry?
Did you want to do the commissioner before I?
Yes, I want to do the commissioner before you. Okay, Barb?
And?
Commissioner Abdul, would you like to oversee this? No?
I think that's a yes.
I think it was a yes.
Yes.
I'd like to designate Commissioner Abdul, and I will help.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Crystal Delue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gulsadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdul?
Yes.
President Federlisa?
She almost didn't vote for herself.
I knew it would be a yes eventually.
Yes. Ben, thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Sir,
Mr. President and Commissioners, When the board votes on the consent agenda items, it does so in a block, and we vote on a number of alphabet soup items.
Right.
Included in today's list of items was consent agenda item 9A, which involves the minutes of board meetings which occurred prior to the appointments of Commissioner Abdu and Commissioner Sadovi. In past practice, commissioners who were not yet on the board often opted to abstain from the approval of those minutes prior to their appointments. In the event that any commissioners today wish to note their abstention with regard to consent agenda item 9A, the appropriate procedure, since we've already voted on it once, would be to seek a motion to void the prior vote on consent agenda item 9A and then re-vote on that matter.
Okay. You agree?
Yes.
Yes, okay. You want to make the motion, Barbie?
I'll move to remove the vote on 9A and to institute a new motion for those items at 9A.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
So we would seek a roll call on the motion to void.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
On a motion to void the original vote, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
Yes.
Commissioner Abdu?
Yes.
President Federici?
Yes.
And then we would seek to re-vote and move 9A once again, which again are those previous minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
I'll move what he said.
And second what he said.
Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Christodoulou?
Yes.
Commissioner Gosadovi?
I'm abstaining.
Commissioner Abdu?
Abstaining as well.
President Federici?
Yes. And thank you, General Counsel.
Thank you very much.
That was the last item on our agenda. I would just like to make one announcement. As many of you know, Kelly Moy moved on to another challenge and is no longer our Director of Clean Energy. And until we find a permanent replacement, Stacy Richardson and Jim Ferris have agreed to be co-acting directors for the Division of Clean Energy. So I wanted to thank them and let the public know that you're in that position. So your phone is going to start ringing really.
Thank you.
Any closing comments by my colleagues? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I meant to put that as a separate.